In this lesson, we're going to focus on understanding how keyword spotting is really put into production scenarios. So far, we've been talking about keyword spotting, and we've been talking about it in a very clean, cookie cutter type of environment. Now I'm going to generalize this to help you understand what it really looks like in the field. We're not going to actually go ahead and do the implementation right now. This is much more from an informative standpoint. In part 3 of this course, we'll actually pick up on this notion and go deeper into the streaming audio, where we'll deploy this into our device. But for now, I want you to think about it from the context of the model. Now, where are we in this grand pipeline? We've come a long way, and we're at the final stages trying to understand how to deploy the model. Now, in the context of deployment, I'm going to focus primarily on the model aspect. How should we think about the audio pipeline that we have built so far? Specifically, when we are looking at keyword spotting, there's a notion of what we call a single shot versus streaming. The fundamentally two different ways we can analyze how a keyword spotting system actually works. In the examples that we've been working on, we've been very much focused on assessing the accuracy of the model when it's only given the keyword and nothing else, right? So when you say, okay, Google, and only when you say, hello world, for instance, that's a fair assessment, but it's the minimum denominator because everything needs to be built on top of that. Why do I say that? Well, think about how you might actually be using the device. Here's an example. Hello world, it's a very nice day to be taking this course, and oh, okay, Google, turn up the volume, and now I'm going to go back to the course. Well, what just happened there, right? Specifically, the important aspect is that the keyword is actually embedded in the context of a streaming audio sequence that we're going to be getting to. So it's like trying to find a needle in the haystack effectively. You've got a whole bunch of different signals coming through, and you've got to try and filter and find the keyword in that continuous track of audio. Instead, what we did previously was try and pretend that everything was nice and clean like this, where we are cleanly given this nice audio file. There's only a single keyword effectively listed here. But in reality, things are much more messier, and this is not going to be the case like we have here. In reality, what you've got to is streaming audio. You've got a whole conversation like what I'm talking about right now, and then we are looking at over here is a continuous stream that's actually getting processed as a continuous audio stream by the machine. We'll talk about this in much more detail in the next part of the course, and we'll learn how to build a classifier model that can actually handle these 1-second audio snippets on a continuous stream. Now, here's an example from a 2020 patent from Google, which talks about how to handle streaming audio for keyword spotting. The fundamentals we'll touch on in the next course module will build on this actual production pipeline scenario, where you've got an audio sequence that's coming through, and then you're on the fly doing feature generation using many of the same principles that we actually discussed already, and things you've already practiced in the Colab, in fact. So the next step is to actually be able to detect in a very complex sequence, and we'll get there in the next module.